The Language of Childhood Friends by C.J. It's Winter on AO3. Chapter 4 A Helping Hand. People think that Katsuki's sports festival was a byproduct of his brash personality, but that's not the full story. Yes, it's part of why the Ash Blonde had stood on the podium to declare that he was gonna win, and that's the end of it. But the bigger reason was that he hated speaking in front of a crowd that he could see in particular. He'll be alright as a hero. He'd seen the hero charts broadcast, and with all those lights on him, it'd be unlikely that the crowd would be visible to him. And interviews won't be in front of the masses. But the Force Festival was. He could see everyone staring at him. In one respect, it helped him. Helped him build and store a crazy amount of sweat just from the 10 seconds he was up there. And it was, quite frankly, nauseating. But it was fine. No one knew, and that was the most important thing right now. Or at least no one but Izuku, which was to be expected as they grew up together, as they so often had to remind their class. Correction, it was fine, right up until Aizawa said that they had to give a solo presentation in front of their whole class. He could manage, it wouldn't be fun, but he knew their class. And Class B. Fuck. He could ask for help. The explosive blonde knew he could. Hell, how many times had he reminded Denki that having help with his dyslexia or ADHD wasn't a bad thing? He and Koda often paired up for presentations, and they made a surprisingly good team, with Koda doing the research and practicing talking on Denki, who memorized the information, reading to him, and did the presentation from memory. So he knew that telling Aizawa was an option, and his friends would have no problem pairing with him. Would welcome him, in fact. But he didn't want to. He didn't want to get through this. Wanted to prove himself he could. So he would. He chose the topics of working abroad as pro-heroes, focusing in particular on All Might and his connections to and in America. He spent the 2 weeks before the presentation practicing his lecture over and over, knowing that if it's memorized, then those 10 minutes will go by that much faster. He ropes that Bakusquad into practice, citing that he will need his friends to be the best, so he could talk in front of actual faces to prepare himself. He knows Denki and Mina, at the very least, will work out that he wasn't entirely honest, but luckily, they trusted him to bring it up himself if it's an issue. And he will. He will. Just not today. Midoriya catches him practicing and gives him a knowing look. In hindsight, the nerd definitely knew what he would be doing, and had probably barged into his room on purpose so he can offer help without making Kachan ask for it. Normally that would piss him off. With the plan they come up with, he'd honestly thankful for once. He'd never admit it, looking at his friend. He knows he doesn't need to. He already has an idea, and if nothing else, Katsuki can't wait to see Aizawa's face. Neither can Izu, if the gleam in his eyes says anything. Katsuki sticks his hand in his pockets as he enters the hall. He can hide any shaking that way. Plus, he has a sweat absorption stress ball in each pocket, so that he can discard the toxic chemical without needing to burn anything afterwards. He takes a seat, subtly looking around. His friends are sat on his row, and the one behind him, while most of Class 1B and a few strays, members of 1A, separate from the Bakusquad, who were sat in the back with Izuku, sat in the middle between the very two bored-looking students of 1B, mentally reciting his plan. In the 40th minutes before his turn, made the time fly. He did pull himself out of his head to listen to Denki and Koda's and Icy Hot's presentation, but ignored eager alien cows and someone else's, a handgirl, maybe, talk. All too quickly, it was his turn. Fuck. Okay, he could do this. He could. He would. Squaring his shoulders, the teen made his way to the podium. Flashcards were spread out in front of him so that it minimized any nitroglycerin contact, and he looked straight through the middle of the assembled students, slightly lower than usual, and started to talk. Whenever he looked about to stumble or had glanced down a couple of times, Izuku assigned his next part. Apart from Aizawa, who knew they had a sign language, it would be impossible to tell what the green-haired student was doing, and so would be overlooked as him practicing his own speech. But it was working. As he got into the content, he found it easier to focus on Izuku's hands rather than the eyes looking at him. At Izu's smirk halfway through the talk, he realized that Aizawa had realized something was happening, and caught the exact moment the raven-haired had seen his helper's hand move fast, scuttling slightly. Whether the two of them breaking, or bending the rules again, the fact that they were seemingly working together, honestly he thought people wanted them to get along, or whether it was that he had no way of deciphering their ways of communication, Katsuki didn't know or care. The red-eyed child smirked himself, and felt himself fall into his work, speeding through his content, and being taken by surprise when his remaining 5 minutes seemed to rush by, but happy to take his seat again, at the polite applause from everyone, and a rather ambiguous clapping from his friends. Of course, 20 minutes, Katsuki repaid the favor. He wasn't in anyone's debt, but he also found himself wanting to help. He told himself it was to see Aizawa lose it at them so blatantly breaking, bending, the rules and being unable to call them out on it. Izuku, as everyone else knew, had the tendency to mumble. Katsuki was there to keep him on track. The blonde couldn't sign so close to the front, but he was front row. He very, very gently tapped his pen against the table. It was more the movement than the sound that Izuku was watching for, to feed the other his lines to stop him from going on a tangent. Red eyes slid sideways to watch as their homeroom teacher got more exasperated, annoyed, and surprisingly awed, which, confident boost right there. Really? You two? As everyone else filed out, Aizawa stopped Bakugou and Midoriya with a pointed sentence, and a roll of dry eyes. I wanted to say, I can't believe you two would use whatever that is. So obvious. But, as it's you two doing it, I'm unfortunately not. Aizawa crossed his arms. As impressed as he was, the two really weren't meant to help each other for this kind of assignment unless they had permission. However, you did break the rules by... Prove it. Midoriya. Yeah, go on, prove it. Prove we, two teenagers, are using a secret, made-up language. At Bakugou's smirk, and Midoriya's laughed, Shouta glared at the two. Annoyed, it had no effect, which was concerning only slightly. Nope, it was very concerning. He sighed heavily, rubbed the bridge of his nose, as if he could force the headache these two gave him away by pure force of will, and when that didn't work, decided it wasn't his problem, and that he needed more caffeine, jelly pouches, and to cuddle either A, a cat, or B, his husband. Not in that order, and all within the next 15 minutes, if he wanted to at least be semi-sane at the end of the day. Just leave you two and don't break anything. That includes bones, Midoriya. Your own, or otherwise. Bakugou lost it at that, laughing at the green-eyed teen, messing his curls up desperately, Midoriya batting his hands and whining before they separated as they left the hall. Thanks, Izu. No problem, Kachan. Let's fuck with him a bit more, yeah? Oh, hell yes. This seems to be a funny little fucking crack shit fic. Or not necessarily a crack fic, but it's like one of those like silly, goofy comedy fics that I'm loving so much. So, what the hell? So much? So much. Okay, we're just gonna bypass that one right there. But yeah, I'm loving this so much. Their chaotic energy and all that, it's amazing, it's wonderful. It's such a cute little, like, if you want a little, you having a stressful day, just sit and listen to this and you'll just be happy. I'm happy. I love this. We're definitely not going to talk about the chapter 2, chapter 3 incident. Never happened. Nobody knows. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, good. It's erased from history. Keep it that way. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.